What's up, YouTube? It's Filthy Casual here, back at it again with another video. Uh, Recorded some stuff yesterday that I didn't like, so I didn't upload it. Um, One of the things that I recorded was a standings list for the Western Conference, and that's kind of what this video is going to be. But I found it so hard, so difficult to actually put the teams in order, and I found myself writing something, disagreeing with it, changing it, and then disagreeing with the thing that I put then. And I think it's a comment on how talented the Western Conference specifically is this year. I think the Eastern Conference is also incredibly talented, but man, the West is still, as always, something else. When I wrote everything into the standings, this is what I put up. Oh, not that. This is what I put up. Oh no, there we go. This is what I put up. So I had the Nuggets at 1, the Clippers at 2, the Warriors at 3, the Suns at 4, the Wolves at 5, the Grizzlies at 6, Mavericks at 7, the Pelicans at 8, the Blazers at 9, the Lakers at 10, and the Kings, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Spurs, and the Jazz all missing the play-in. Um, so I'm going to start off with the bottom. I don't think anybody's expecting OKC, Rockets, Spurs, or Jazz to make the play-in or the playoffs. Maybe OKC sneaks in there instead of the Lakers or the Blazers, but like that would be the Lakers or the Kings or the OKC missing or getting into the play-in. I think would be a shock to most people, and I'm gonna stick with that here, right? The Lakers and the Blazers. See, this is where have trouble, right? Even right off rip, I really like Damian Lillard. I think he's a fantastic player, but I think in some years where he could have carried this team to higher heights, uh, I think the West was less of a bloodbath. This year, it really feels like a bloodbath. It feels like, in response to what felt like a grouping of talent in the East last year, now it's starting to gather again in the West. And, the Blazers have Dame Lillard and Anthony Simons. The Lakers have AD, LeBron, Russell Westbrook, Patrick Beverly. Uh, they have got, well, Patrick Beverly's not obviously on the same level as the other three players, but you know what I mean. The Lakers, as far as their shot to be higher on this list goes, I just don't believe in the Russell Westbrook LeBron James pairing. I don't think a lot of people do. It has nothing to do with how good LeBron is. It's just that AD's always injured, and Russell Westbrook is clearly a shell of his former self. He's definitely no longer this all NBA caliber player anymore. His athleticism is great, out of control, and unlike a lot of other veteran players, he doesn't seem to have slowed down at all in terms of the game around him. Decision making is still as frenetic as always, so it's not particularly helpful. Uh, Moving beyond that, though, the Blazers, I mean, honestly, the Lakers might be better than the Blazers. The Blazers might be a 10 seed. If they feel like a shipwreck. So it's kind of hard to say, hey, this sinking ship is sinking faster than this sinking ship. Like, well, they're both sinking, and it feels kind of the same to me. So I have them kind of somewhat interchangeable. I have the Pelicans at 8 and the Mavs at 7. Here's another two that feel somewhat interchangeable. The Pelicans are incredibly talented. I love the Zion Brandon Ingram pairing. I think it's actually quite good. They've got CJ McCollum now. They've got a squad. The Pelicans have a lot of players who are really quite good, and I guess my main issue with them is that I don't necessarily know if they're going to be healthy all the way through. They've got some players. I obviously did a breakdown on some of the other teams on this list. The Pelicans were one of those teams that I recorded a video for and didn't upload. I didn't like the way it turned out, but they've got incredibly deep team, and they've got one of the best. Well, maybe sorry, not an incredibly deep team. They don't have an incredibly deep. But they do have one of the best starting fives in the league. They have Zion, Jonas Valanciunas, C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and then either Jose Alvarado or Devontae Graham or Gary Clark or Herb Jones. Herb Jones is probably the one who's getting the start for his defense because he's a little bit bigger than some of those other guys, and you can run Ingram at the 2 instead of, having Devontae Graham in the lineup, right? That's kind of what they did last year, and I don't think it'll be surprised to anybody. I think that the Pelicans have a shot to be a lot higher on this, depending on how the season goes. Obviously, Zion is one of the most efficient second-team All-NBA player a couple of years back. If he's similar to what he was before, which I have no reason to think that he wouldn't be, they could definitely be higher than this. I just feel like all the teams above them have done something in the last couple of years to put them into that playoff discussion before them, even though I really do believe in Zion. And it's like every time I'm not putting them higher, it like tears my soul out. The Mavericks it's like Luka. I just believe in Luka so much to not put him as a top 6 seed. I mean, honestly, you could swap the Mavericks and the Grizzlies here, and I would probably be like, "Yep, that sounds right." We're happy about it, but at the same time, John Morant, I also love. However, they are injured. They're missing Jaren Jackson Jr. The Mavericks lost a lot of, you know, I guess the word would be depth, but also star power. They lost Brunson, who's an incredibly good player, and I really just think that that's going to impact them more than we think, because Jalen Brunson's been on that team for almost as long as Luka has, and while he wasn't, a 20-point per game scorer up until the past season, he was still giving them very solid contributions off the bench every time he played. It was very good for them in those non-Luka minutes. And now that they don't have that, they're going to need that replacement, either Spencer Dinwiddie or, you know, somebody else. And, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. I think the Mavericks, honestly, this is what I mean. This is exactly what I mean. I'm going to swap the Mavericks and the Grizzlies. I'm going to put the Mavs at 6. I think the Grizzlies are injured. I'm gonna swap them. We'll do it live. All right, so we've got the Grizzlies at 7, and then the Mavericks. I think the Grizzlies have Jaren Jackson Jr. injured, and that's gonna kill a lot of their regular season oomph. All their like out the window. Mostly just because defense really carries you in a lot of situations, especially even when Ja was out. They were a better defensive team, and that carried them to better records than with Ja, who's offensively their best player. So it really depends on how you value Jaren Jackson Jr. fouling out in 25 minutes of gameplay. If you think that's going to impact their wins, put them at 7. If you think maybe it doesn't so much, maybe put them a little bit higher up. I've got the Wolves at 5. The Wolves are the only reason I have the Wolves this high is for two reasons: Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. Anthony Edwards, I think, is going to be this 27-point per game. Well, say 25-point per game scorer. I think he's shown that he can be that. Rudy Gobert has shown he doesn't get past 2, so it doesn't really matter. But hey, he does in fact add a ton of wins. If you watch my best worst video on the Wolves, like I said then, they have this massive bump coming from Rudy Gobert, because according to all the advanced stats, he's supposedly supposed to add like 20-something wins to your team. I don't know if he's going to do that much for them, but if he adds, 6 to 7 wins to this team, which I think is very plausible just from him, not to mention Anthony Edwards getting better, that would put them in a much better spot. Let me just take a quick peek, see at exactly how many games back they were last year. Last year, they were back 2 games from the playoffs. 2 games. They were 3 games behind the 5 seed. So if they win 5 more games, that puts them at 51 wins. That puts them at a 5 seed. And the Mavericks, who had 52 wins, will lose. So they actually could be a 4 seed. Now, this implies that other teams haven't gotten better, which, of course, in this case, the Nuggets, Clippers have. But we'll get to them when we get to them. Next up, I have the Phoenix Suns. The Suns are a team that I expect to take a dip in the regular season. I think they really put a lot of value in being that number 1 seed and having 64 wins and giving themselves home court and all that advantage stuff. And I think it kind of came back to bite them, their arrogance. and they didn't really have the heart to come back once they were behind, and we saw it in that game 7, and I think they will come out. I still think they will win 50 games this season. I don't think that's going to be surprising. I don't think they're going to lose 14 more games than they did last year. But I just think that the overall win totals of the top four-ish teams are going to be a little bit higher. I think the Nuggets are going to win 60 games for sure. I don't think that there's any world in which they don't unless Jokic gets injured. I think they're almost guaranteed 60 wins. I think they've gotten 54 before. I don't recall exactly what year it was, but I do believe that their recent high as far as records go was 54 years back. Maybe I'm tripping, but whatever. Um, I think the Nuggets are going to win 60 games, and that's why I've got them at the first. Uh, we'll go to the. I'm skipping around a bit here, but we're going to go back down to the Clippers. Clippers are a team that have a ton of depth that I think is going to carry them in the regular season as far as roster and winning games, especially considering Paul George and Kawhi might not be playing all the games. They just might not. And that's the one thing that could really throw this whole ranking up in the air, I think, that if the Clippers aren't really gunning for regular season games, like, they're not trying to win, which I think they will just because I think that they want that now, as opposed to a couple years ago. They were like, we could do whatever in the regular season. We're going to just win in the postseason. And that didn't happen because they didn't get a great seed. So I think they're really going to be like shooting for that top 2 to top 3 seed. And they're going to end up there because they're extremely talented team. They're one of the best teams in the league, I think. And I think they're going to get that. The Warriors, I have at 3. So if you know me, the Warriors are my picks to win the title this upcoming year. I think they're going to go back to back. I think the regular season, they're going to end up in around the same spot, a 3 seed. I think they're going to win a similar number of games. However, I do think that they are going to be a little bit more unpolished at the start of the season. I don't think they're going to come out as hard and as successful as they did in the previous year. The previous season, they were like the number 1 team in the league for a very long time. Uh, Pretty much until Steph like got this awful shooting slump and they started dealing with some injuries. People started missing time and the record went down. But another year of development for the young players. I think they do have the talent from these young players. I think Moody can step into the Otto Porter Jr. role. I think Jordan Poole is going to be better on defense. I think he's going to be a little bit more muscular than he was last year. I think he's going to be a little bit stronger and wiser than he was last year. I think Kuminga is going to provide a lot of effort, plays, and defense. This dude, all the raw material in the world to just be an all-time player. And I don't think he's going to be all-time this upcoming year, but he's going to play a lot more minutes, and I think he's going to be good. I also, just more than anything, I just believe in the Steph, Clay, Dre trio. Clay is going to be better. This is the other one that could really like throw this list out. The Warriors with Steph, Clay, and Dre, if they want to gun for the regular season, bro, they've got the record for the all-time team. I'm not saying that this team is going to beat that record, but like they could win 64, 65 games. And I would be like, well, what did I expect? What did I expect? They're the champions. They've got Steph Curry, they've got Draymond Green, they've got Klay Thompson, they've got all these awesome players. And what did I expect? Of course, they're going to be the number 1 seed. Something like that. This list compared to previous lists, not set in stone. This is literally a total guess. I don't feel confident in any of my picks. This just feels the Western Conference more so than the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference feels like so many different things happen. There's a world where the Wolves are like the 1 seed and the Pelicans are like the 3 seed, right? Like these new young teams that put their cores together this past season, like just shoot the Stars, or maybe they're still a year away, which is perfectly plausible. I believe that for a lot of these teams that they're a year away, just because I don't know how else to justify how all these really good teams are going to be competing at the same time. It's all going to be rough, and hey, maybe Damian Lillard gets traded at the mid-season deadline. I don't think so, but crazy crap's going to happen. So it'll be a really interesting Western Conference. I'm a little bit holding on my seat as far as I'm not ready for it, but I'm also so ready for it. I'm so done with the off season. I want it to be time for basketball. So thank you so much for watching this video if you got this far. I really actually did put quite a lot of effort into this one because I couldn't come up with a video yesterday. I tried recording this video, it came out bad. I tried recording a Pelicans best worst. I was like half asleep, it wasn't working. So I took the day, came back with this, giving you more heat. Hopefully everybody enjoyed and has a wonderful day. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And if you have any ideas for videos, let me know, because I want to keep doing the best and worst, but I don't want it to be like all week, every week, right? So I'm going to try to mix it up. I might throw in some other videos in there. So if you got any ideas for that, or if you want to see a best worst of a team that I haven't talked about yet, there's still, I've only done like 8 or 9 of them. So there's still plenty of teams left. And yeah, have a good one.